I think we're live, people. All right. So I wanted to do a live impromptu YouTube stream. I'm doing this thing off my computer here today because I've got a gajillion things going on, and my director is not here today. So normally, when I do things from the studio, as you guys know, my studio is in my home, so we're in my garage. And one of the bedrooms over there is the control room. And I've done some behind the scenes things that we used to do on Patreon, where I'd give people a tour of the control room. Is one of the bedrooms. One of the bedrooms is the green room. This is the garage in here. And we've really turned my entire house into a pretty full functioning state of the art studio. It's actually pretty awesome because when I get major TV stars that come in here, they're like, "Holy shit! Like, you've done it, man. You created like a real deal studio." It's pretty awesome. But anyway, there's so many things going on. I just flew in from Cleveland this morning. We did a live stream, by the way, last night from Ocon in Cleveland. We did a live stream on big tech censorship, which had been planned already in a couple days in advance. And then this whole Project Veritas thing went down. And I think we did a really fantastic conversation with Brian Armoridge, who's a former Facebook engineer, and Yaron Brook, who's the chairman of the board at the Ayn Rand Institute, and Greg Salmieri, who's a philosophy professor at Rutgers. Anyway, we did, it was in front of about 400 or 500 people, a live show, and we live streamed it. There were some issues with the live streaming. It had nothing to do with my guys on our end. There were some technical problems over there. So we took down the live stream. We're going to re-upload it in about 2 hours. I think at 4:45 Pacific, it'll be re-uploaded, and we do about a 2-hour conversation with a live Q&A where we play some of the Project Veritas video. We talk about all of the issues related to tech censorship. And, you know, really the four of us are small government people. So talking about, can competition fix this? Are there antitrust issues here, regulation issues, all of those things that you guys know that I've been talking about relentlessly. Anyway, so that'll be up in about 2 hours. And I just wanted to talk directly to you guys because there's a lot of shit going on right now. And it's a little nuts. It's all good. I did get a haircut today. I'm feeling very good about the hair, by the way. I came right in from Cleveland, went right to the barber, got the haircut. I will be on Tucker Carlson tonight, by the way, talking about the Project Veritas thing. I think I'll be on the second segment. That's about 8:10 p.m. Eastern, so 5:10 p.m. Pacific. But I wanted to just share some thoughts directly to you guys. So quickly, just technically, if I could just do one thing real quick, which is that one of the things we're learning beyond the censorship stuff that I'm obviously going to talk about here is that there is a lot of confusion generally, and I think it's partly intentional on YouTube's behalf, about how the algorithm works and how you guys, even when you subscribe to a channel, actually don't see videos and why you don't see the videos. So if you are subscribed to this channel, one of the things that you have to do is you have to click the bell that's on the homepage, youtube.com/Rubin Report, and click get all notifications or whatever that says there, all notifications, something like that. Because otherwise they just choose not to show you things, and it's particularly confusing. Now I get it, they unsubscribe people, and now we're learning about all sorts of suppression and all that. But if you want to get notified of our videos, the best way to do it is to click that bell. They may still screw with you, but at least make sure you've done that part. And I see already some of you guys in the comment section saying that you've clicked the bell, all notifications, and you still get nothing. So look, this is all the stuff we're trying to figure out. This is what some of the insiders are sharing with people. And, you know, I'm very torn here as a limited government guy and someone that doesn't want regulation about what we're supposed to do, but I'm going to keep bringing on experts and people with interesting thoughts to talk about these companies, about whether they should be regulated, are they platform publishers, all of those issues. So I thought today, though, we do something a little different. So since I am on my computer, I'm a little flexible here. So first off, I just want you to all say hello to Emma. We'll give a little hello there to Emma. She is the guard dog of the Rubin Report studio. Emma, what's going on, sister? How you doing, lady? You guys, I think most of you have probably heard the story about Emma. She turned 15 2 days ago. And she has bladder cancer, which we found out about 4 months ago. She's really doing great right now, and we're really happy for her. She's on CBD and mushrooms and food. She's a little tired at the moment, but she's really doing great. And you know, you guys have sent me so many nice messages, and people have sent me all sorts of advice and things to put her on. We don't have her on any traditional medication, just CBD and some mushrooms and some supplements and things. And she's lost some weight, and she's She's doing good. She's doing good. And trust me, 15 dog years, what's that? That's like 105. Like if I'm doing that good at 105, and I have people caring for me the way we're caring for her, I'll feel good. So I thought one of the things that would be interesting today is because people seem to think that I am leading people to the far right or the alt-right. Because people think that I'm doing this sort of thing. I thought it would be funny. I was just sitting here right before the live stream, and all of the books that I have on set are of former guests of the Rubin Report. I thought very quickly, these are in no particular order. We just sort of put them up kind of based on color, pretty much. And I thought we'd kind of look at the books together and think, is this a show that's leading people to the far right? So let's take a look and see what we've got here. So I'm just going to do this in order. So Steven Pinker, who is a lefty, liberal, progressive professor at Harvard University, Enlightenment Now, he's been on the show. This is Amy Chua. She wrote a book called Political Tribes. Amy is Tiger Mom. I guess you could probably describe her. I think she's probably within the classical liberal, maybe a little more conservative milieu, but somewhere sort of centrist, probably a little left-leaning in a way. Equal is Unfair by Don Watkins and Yaron Brook, who've both been on the show. Now, these guys are objectivists. They're Ayn Rand guys. And if you're not familiar with that, they're basically sort of what you'd call extreme libertarians. They always want to find a private solution to everything. They don't think the government's particularly good at anything. So this is that, you could call that a far right position, but it has nothing to do with racism. It has nothing to do with bigotry or anything like that. I love talking about those ideas with them. I disagree on some stuff, but it's all good. This is 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel, of course, who's been on the show, is a tech entrepreneur and the co-founder of PayPal, and now he runs Palantir and the Thiel, I think it's the Thiel Foundation, and a whole bunch of other things. And he's become a good friend of mine. Certainly not a far-right maniac, whatever you want to call him. He's kind of basically a libertarian. Neil Ferguson, who was one of my favorite guests, actually. Yeah, I know none of this should matter. I see some of the comments. None of this should matter, but I'm just painting a little picture here. Neil Ferguson is a conservative historian. Brilliant guy. If you haven't seen my episode with him, it's one of my real favorites. The guy's just a tour de force of information. And he's married to Ayaan Hirsi Ali, by the way. And this is a Carlin Home Companion by Kelly Carlin, who is a big-time progressive lefty. One of my best friends, a sweet girl, daughter of George Carlin, who was a lefty comic and a free speech warrior. Then we have Dirty Daddy by Bob Saget, comedian, lefty, liberal. I had dinner with him and his wife and David 2 weeks ago, and Bob is a lefty, and we debate all sorts of things, and it's all good. Then Nick Christakis, who is a lefty. He was on the show recently. He was the Yale professor who got yelled at because his wife basically wrote a letter saying to the students of Yale that, you should be able to wear whatever Halloween costume you want. You might want to take into account what people might think, but, you could write it. And he defended his wife, and then he got called all sorts of things, but definitely a lefty liberal. Gad Saad, one of my favorite guests and good friend, who is a behavioral psychologist up in Canada, who's, I would say, an old school liberal. The Strange Death of Europe by Douglas Murray. I feel like I'm giving away Lifetime Achievement Awards right now. The Strange Death of Europe by Douglas Murray, who is a British conservative, really within the classical liberal tradition, I would say. Then a lot of people have asked me about these videos. These are old stand-up tapes, VHS, and I think it's mini DV tapes, tons of old stand-up stuff that I've done that maybe we'll digitize one day and show. And then what else do we have here? We have The Moral Arc by skeptic.com founder Michael Shermer, who I would say basically is a classical liberal / libertarian. Hate by Nadine Strawson, the former head of the NAACP, who's an absolute free speech advocate lefty her entire life. Sam Harris, who's a good old-fashioned atheist liberal. Jordan Peterson, who I would say basically, you guys all know Jordan. I mean, I would say he's basically a classical liberal with some conservative beliefs when it comes to maybe some of the religious stuff, but by no means a far-right extremist. Dennis Prager, who I would say is just like a dyed-in-the-wool, old-school sort of Reagan conservative. Andrew Klavan, I kind of put him in the Prager school right there. Yoram Hazony, who I had on a couple weeks ago, who wrote this wonderful book called The Virtue of Nationalism, which if you haven't seen that interview, I would say check that one out, because the word nationalism has been so screwed up and confused and conflated lately to imply that it means some sort of race, that it has a racial element to it, that if you're a nationalist, that means you're a racist. And it's just not true. And he explains that. Well, Thomas Sowell, Discrimination and Disparities, maybe the most, my personal favorite interview I've ever done, with this 85-year-old legend who's been talking about economics and race and all of these things for 50 years. We did that interview up at Stanford. He doesn't do much traveling. They actually invited us up there to do one again. We couldn't do it. So hopefully we'll be able to soon enough. David Horowitz, The Black Book of the American Left. David Horowitz, definitely on the right. I would say he's sort of more maybe a little bit more of a neoconservative type, but a former lefty. Parents were communists. And then he's sort of, people always say, well, Rubin is sort of the next version of Horowitz, because Horowitz was a lefty his whole life. And then during the Reagan re-election, I guess that's 84. So in about 83, he decided to vote for Reagan and had come out basically as not a lefty. And then finally, the right side of history, that Ben Shapiro fellow, that fast talking Orthodox Jew who is a conservative without question. Anyway, the point is, I don't think you're seeing a lot of racists up here. You know what I mean? And this is just a random sampling. You know what I mean? We did this based on color. And that isn't to say I haven't talked to people that perhaps have some sort of racist element or anything like that. It's all just sort of a silly nonsense. And it really shows you how the Overton window has shifted in such a crazy way that if you talk to anyone who falls outside of the progressive groupthink of the day, which that's all that this thing is, if you talk to anyone who isn't as woke as the next guy, then they'll come and get you. So I guess that does lead us to this situation with Project Veritas. And look, here's the situation. First off, I've had James O'Keefe on the show, and you can say whatever you want about James O'Keefe, and he sort of fessed up to doing some somewhat shady things in the past and all of those things. So I don't want to make this really about him or a referendum on what you think of Project Veritas or O'Keefe. I mean, they just in the last 2 hours released an email from a Google employee where they're literally referring to Ben Shapiro, Orthodox Jew and yarmulke-wearing Ben Shapiro, as a Nazi. They're referring to PragerU, written by, I would say conservative Jewish radio host Dennis Prager, written by, he runs the whole thing, PragerU, Dennis Prager. They refer to him as a Nazi. They refer to Jordan Peterson as a Nazi. I mean, these things are so patently absurd. For some reason, they left me off that email list. I was kind of offended. I've been called these things so many times. It's like, oh, guys, what happened? What are you doing here? But I want to talk about Jordan for a second, specifically on this, because you guys know, I was on tour with Jordan for most of 2018. We did about 120 stops in something like 15 countries or something. And Jordan gives a different lecture every single night. So if those of you that didn't see any of our shows, and hopefully in 2020, as we both have new books coming out, we'll jump back on tour. We'll see about that. Basically the way it would work is I would go on stage. We'd be at these awesome theaters, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people. I go on stage for usually about 10 or 15 minutes. I get everybody laughing. I talk about lobsters, some funny references to the IDW crew, just making everybody, look around and realize you're not on YouTube right now. You're having fun in a room full of truly different, diverse, in the right sense of diverse people and all of those things. And then Jordan, every single night, truly, guys, every single night would give a different lecture. He never gave the same lecture twice. I've said this before. Sometimes he would do all 12 rules, talk about all of them. Some nights he would do a whole lecture on one rule. He'd talk about 3 rules. Some nights he would just talk about YouTube. Some nights he'd talk about podcasts. Some nights he would talk about politics. Some nights he would talk about relationships. Some nights he would talk about Pinocchio. I mean, it was completely different every night. But one of the things that was consistent at I would say 90% of the shows is he would go out of his way to condemn the collectivist ideology that would lead someone to fascism, that would lead someone to Nazism, that would lead someone to some of this alt-right stuff. He would do it every single night. So the idea that the New York Times and YouTube and the rest of it, that there are people there that think these things about these people. It's not that they first off, they were calling them Nazis, not just saying they lead people to becoming Nazis or anything. They're calling them Nazis. It's the most patently absurd, truly offensive cultural appropriation for the people that hate cultural appropriation. They're appropriating some evil, sick shit. So it's all just twisted. And what we're finding out right now is that if you fall outside of that mainstream leftist nonsense, that Google has decided to put their finger down and suppress the video views that you're going to get and potentially suppress other search things and all sorts of things. I mean, I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg. I do want to say, though, for the Google employees that are watching this, and I'm sure that there are, and for Facebook employees and Twitter employees, well, first off, the dam is breaking, and a lot of people are reaching out to all sorts of people, and I think these things have just grown too large to protect themselves. But I just want to say, like, it's not that fun having to fight Google. Like, everything being equal, yeah, I got something to talk about with you guys right now. This feels real, and like there's like a certain like, excitement around it or something like that. But like, everything being equal, I would rather do my interview show, do some live streams, write my book, do some stand-up, tour, whatever the hell else I'm doing in my life, and just put videos up and then have them treated fairly by the algorithm and let the views be good or bad or fall wherever they may. And I understand there's some need for an algorithm because there's so much information and so much content to sort and all of those things. But if we're being manipulated without knowing it, something that most of us, from Crowder to Shapiro to JP, to Eric Weinstein, who doesn't create specifically on YouTube, but is obviously in the midst of all of this thing and created the phrase intellectual dark web. It's like all of us, because we're a little outside of that thing, none of us have, of the people I just mentioned, none of these people have extreme political views. They have varying political views. They have diverse political views. But all of us, I know, would prefer to just make content, and if you like it and you subscribe to it, then it's going to show up in your feed. And if you don't like us, you won't be suggested our videos and whatever else. But this thing has become just such like a really, really awful, like, this thing strikes me as evil, what's happening. There are people, look, I'm not saying it's a giant conspiracy. It's funny. There were people yesterday that were tweeting about how, people keep calling Rubin a conspiracy theorist the last 2 years, that Google's manipulating things and, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yesterday they were kind of like, well, maybe Rubin's not totally crazy. I would prefer not to be a conspiracy theorist. I would prefer that they were just transparent about their rules, and then we would go do it. I also want to address real quick, this idea of that you're not allowed to complain if you don't want government involvement, because, I don't want government involvement, even right this moment. And hopefully after this, if you have a little time later, you'll watch some of my live stream from yesterday where I talked to free market guys about what the alternatives are. I don't want the government involved. Even we can talk about the platform versus publisher thing, and I think there's some interesting things there that we could talk about. Antitrust. We can talk about all of those different ways that government could get involved to try to fix this. But once you start using government power for something, then more and more government power just keeps encroaching. And the Trump administration may be friendly to some of those outsider voices right now, but he's not going to be president forever, even though, if you watch MSNBC, I think they think he announced he's going to be king for 200 years. He's not going to be president forever. And once you give that power to the government, okay, so the government's going to have power over the tech companies. And now let's say we have a lefty government, and now we have lefty tech companies. Well, then you're really screwed. And I don't even want to make this a left-right thing, because I don't think that that's really the right way to frame it. We really have just sort of we have a freedom principle, and you have to decide which side you're on it. And I don't mean that whether you're on the left side of it or the right side, but you have a freedom principle, and I want people to be as free as possible. So what I would always want is competition. Now, I'm working on some tech stuff. Jordan's working on some stuff. There are tons of people who have reached out to me. We have had insiders from these companies that want to come work for us now. So I started a tech company. There's all sorts of cool things happening right now. And as big as these companies feel, and as monstrous as they feel, it's like, what I still believe right now, if Susan Wojcicki, is that her name? Or is that was Wiki from Transformers? That was, what's his name in Transformers? Wojcicki? Is that her name? Whatever her name is. Susan, if you're watching this from YouTube, or if anyone's in the office right now, or if the janitor's just got the screen on right now, if anyone's working over there at Google right now and you're freaking out because why is Rubin talking about this stuff? I would love to just sit down with you. No agenda. I won't bring notes. I'm not going to try to get you. Have I ever tried to do that once? I'll treat you the same way I treat all of my guests. And let's talk this thing out. I just want the company to be a little more transparent about what's going on. And I would suspect that if you guys are depressing view counts on certain things, that means you're depressing the ability to generate ad revenue on it, and your shareholders might want to know about that. So I think they're just creating a whole series of problems for themselves that's just absolutely unnecessary. I just don't believe it to be necessary. I think that there's so many ways that this could be dealt with. Oh, I should also just real quick. When Crowder got into the hot water 2 weeks ago, when he got into that fight with this Vox guy, and they were trying to ban Crowder, and it sounded like he was at least going to be temporarily banned, and the rest of it, and we all came to his defense. Daily Wire and Blaze TV. So Crowder's on Blaze and Shapiro's on Daily Wire. Obviously, they did bonkers, some of their best days ever of subscriptions. And I really do believe that the next version of the internet, and I do see you guys throwing in some super chats here, and I really do appreciate that. So thank you. The next version of that is you'll just figure out how to follow and support creators directly, and that'll be it. So we may be going into kind of unbundling phase of the internet. That's kind of what I believe right now. I mean, maybe these platforms have just become too big. I hope they aren't. I love doing all this. We can all complain about these things and all that, but how cool is all of this? Like, wherever you are in the world right now, I'm able to communicate with you. You're able to send me messages via Twitter. You're able to fight with anonymous strangers and call everyone a Nazi, and make offensive gay remarks. You can do all of those things via the internet, this cool tool that we all have. And yet what comes with that cool tool is that should be a book or something. But what comes with that is that you're going to see people you don't like, you're going to hear voices you don't like, and all of those things. And what's happening, unfortunately, is the mainstream media, the New York Times and CNN and the rest of it, they've decided that if anyone gets any information that they don't like, that they must be bad guys and they must be silenced. And that's the weird thing. So think about it this way. When you see all these articles from Vox and HuffPo and then Media Matters and all these things, they're always trying to censor everybody, say everyone's an alt-right Nazi, let's get Tucker Carlson's advertisers off, and all of this nonsense, right? When was the last time you saw, say, me and Prager and Shapiro and Peterson or Rogan or Sam Harris or the Weinsteins or any of these people? When was the last time you saw any of these people try to get anyone booted from anything? You don't. You just don't. You might say, in some case, I can't think of one off the top of my head, you might say, oh, well, there's somebody to go protest or something like that. Like, for example, when Linda Sarsour was invited, I think it was to City College in New York. I've been very public about what I think about this person. I think she's a really, I think she's a dangerous character, let's say. But if the school has invited her, then it is on the school. It is the school's responsibility to let her speak. You can go protest her. Now, you can't pull fire alarms. You can't call in bomb threats and violently protest, as has been done to me and has certainly been done to Shapiro and others. But why is it that this mob to deplatform people, to silence people, always is coming from one direction and it's not coming from the other direction? That's something just worth thinking about. So real quick, I want to just thank all of you that are subscribed to us right now. So if you're just subscribed here and you check out what I'm doing and you share it, that's really the most important thing that you can do. If you think I'm a decent guy and that we're trying to have decent conversation around here, and there's a whole world where everyone's trying to destroy each other, and I really don't try to do that, and I try not to talk about people. I try to talk about ideas to the best of my ability. And it's not always perfect, but that is what I try. So if you just subscribe to this and you share these videos, and hopefully if you talk about some of these ideas, if you care about them, you talk about them with your family and friends, then you've done your part. But I do have to give a particular serious and just as grateful as I could possibly be to anyone, the people that subscribe to daverubin.com/donate, that subscribe monthly. You can give whatever you want. You get an ad-free podcast for now. We are building out some tiers on that. And trust me, we're building out some seriously cool stuff, and it just takes a little bit of time. But I started another company. We got some investment. I don't take any personal money out of that, $0. It's to build something that we're building, and it's really cool. And we're working with some cool people. But you guys enable us, if YouTube actually shut off all of our demonetization tomorrow, we'd still be okay. And that is because of you guys. But it does make, building a functional business hard, because when you watch your rev go like this all the time, it's like, well, how do you decide how to hire? How do you do a 1-year projection, 2-year projection, everything else? So I'm incredibly appreciative, obviously, to you guys. It's daverubin.com/donate if you dig it. And if you don't, if you just share the videos, that's good too. So anyway, one of the things that we found out through this Veritas video, they released a couple things yesterday, not just this email that talks about Prager and Shapiro and Peterson being Nazis. Also, we just played out the word Nazi. Like, how much more do you guys want to destroy, like, a truly horrific, historic event talking about the Holocaust, talking about World War II, the way you guys throw around the term Hitler and Nazis and all of these things, and now concentration camps, there's such a twist. There's such a weird thing. The people who are so sensitive over words and pronouns and all of this stuff, the way they twist words and use labels and twist history. It's an erasure of history, actually. It's pretty, that's actually gross and racist, if I can dare quote Batman. So we have to figure out a better way to get through some of this nonsense. And I think there is a way to do it. And I think the way to do it is just by being honest with people. I really do. And if you show people that you're a little better, that's one of the questions I get at a lot of these Q&As. So in the last month or so, I haven't done too many public gigs because I've been really crunched down working on the book. I'm about 80% done now. And I think it'll be officially announced on August 1st. It'll go on sale in May of 2020. And I promise you, I've put my heart and soul into this thing. And I think it's going to be really good and different and all that stuff. But one of the things I get asked always, I did 2 gigs in the last couple of days. So I was in Cleveland at Ocon yesterday, and then 2 days before I was at William Jessup University, which is I think they define themselves as a Christian liberal arts college. So it was a really interesting place to be. And, people always say, well, what can I do? What can I do? How do I get involved? And really the only answer to that is just start speaking up. There are so many people that would love to silence you, and they have no problem speaking up. And if you think that someone else is going to speak up on your behalf, if you won't speak up, it's like, that's why there's so few of us. I also been thinking about this as I've been on tour with Jordan for the year. He talks about the importance of stories, right? And he often sometimes he talks about the story, a story like Pinocchio or something like that, but he talks about biblical stories, and he obviously does his biblical lectures. And it's like, one of the stories that keeps ringing in my head right now is the story of David versus Goliath. Now, I'm not going to give you a full biblical breakdown. I leave that to Jordan. I don't know if he's done one on David versus Goliath. I hope he has. And if he hasn't, I'm going to ask him to do one. But you all know the basics of the story, which is that David, who was this little guy, was able to take out Goliath, who was this Goliath, right? This big giant monster. And David did it with I think it was just a slingshot, right? And it's like, maybe that is the message we're all supposed to be getting right now. We think that these big bag tech companies are unstoppable and whatever, but if we just use our voices, maybe we can change things. I really believe that. So for the engineers at Google watching this, if you're not happy, speak up a little bit. I met an engineer yesterday. I met a Google engineer yesterday. And he's like, we're not bad people. We're kind of, we're not in there to manipulate things and take people down and destroy all things. But then the culture of it starts getting weird, and people start being silent, and you let things slide and the rest of it. And it's like, I get it, but maybe we can change things. I think we can. Okay, quick reminder: click the bell. There's a bell. Click that bell. Click the bell and make sure you have all notifications on. That way, you actually see my videos when they come out. I should also tell you that one of the things we're thinking about. So I've had a whole bunch of offers, obviously, to take this show elsewhere, to be produced by other people. People have offered to buy a portion of the show, a gajillion things. And I don't want to do any of those things. We've turned away some pretty significant money to do things like that. I have been thinking about some other ways to sort of protect our digital property. So I mentioned this tech company I'm doing, but I think there are some other ways through distribution. And I think we'll probably make some announcements within the next couple of weeks related to that, because I do think having your stuff, as long as I can control it, right? As long as I can do the show the way I want, as long as I'm my boss, I'm running the company and the rest of it. I think getting our stuff out there in as many places as possible is a good idea. So we've been thinking about some distribution stuff. I am being told that if you see a whole bell, if you click it and then you click the whole bell, you'll get all notifications. If you have a hollow bell, you're only going to get some of the notifications. I mean, I guess, do they make this intentionally obtuse? Like, what's the point? What's the point? If you subscribe to something, you probably want to see the videos. But the way they're rejiggering the order of everything. And, the other part of this is, that New York Times article that came out, and I know I've talked about this a bit. It wasn't just that they were implying that we lead people far right, which is just crazy, because I get more email from conservatives that say, I'm a little more liberal because of watching you. I get far more of that than anyone saying. I've seen maybe 2 emails where someone was like, I became more, actually, I've never seen one, but I could envision something like someone saying I can't even really think about it. Something like, I became more right because of you. I honestly can't think of one. I truly can't. I'm not bullshitting. I honestly can't. But one of the things in the New York Times video, the New York Times article, was this idea that we're radicalizing people to the right, even though in the article itself, this YouTuber ends up being a lefty. So the whole article was debunked by itself. But the point is, through this Veritas thing, is that what the insider said basically is that they have tagged this channel as right wing. And then what they then do is they sort of press their thumb in suppressing the suggested video tab, so that instead of suggesting more of my videos or things that you might be interested in sort of in line with that, they then suggest CNN or MSNBC videos. Now, again, as a private company, I suppose they could do whatever they want, right? But the question is, are they only doing this one way? If you were to watch far lefty stuff, which there's a ton of on YouTube and most of it's pretty craptastic, if you were to watch that, would they then try to push you to more centrist or right-leaning things? I think we obviously know the answer to that is no. So it's not that saying something is right-leaning or right-wing inherently is bad. I don't believe it to be bad. I think that's one of the reasons I get so much shit is because what I have done is I've actually talked to conservatives and right-leaning people and libertarians and treated them as humans. I don't think that's freaking rocket science. I think they are humans, and in most cases, I found them to be much more tolerant than the so-called tolerant people. But I think that's why I get the amount of shit I get, because not only have I sort of escaped leftist lunacy, but I've also treated these people. I've sat here with Shapiro and respectfully disagreed on his religious views on gay marriage, for example. And my favorite example of this is. Was it in May or no? I think it was in January. We did one of our last shows, one of our last Peterson shows for this run, and we were at the Orpheum here in LA, which is a great theater downtown. It's about 3,000 seats, really cool old school theater. And I said Ben, because it was in LA, he lives here. I said, hey, why don't I'll do my thing at the top of the stage, top of the show. Sorry, I'm getting crazy pop-ups here. I said, I'm going to do my thing at the top of the show, and why don't I bring you out? Crowd will go nuts, whatever. And I do my thing. And then I said, a special guest, Ben Shapiro. And Ben brought out a little cupcake and handed me a cupcake because, we've had this ongoing thing that we're friends, but he has a religious belief around gay marriage, and he wouldn't bake me a gay wedding cake. And that's okay. And I don't want Ben's kosher cake. Okay. It's completely fine with me. Does that difference of opinion create a situation that Ben will never be my true best friend in life? Yeah. But can we be friends? Can we respect each other mutually? Can we agree to disagree? I've said this before, but I do believe that over the course of time, 50 years from now, if we're able to maintain that conversation, I believe that probably at 80 something years old, Ben will go, Dave, you were married to your husband for 50 some odd years, and you guys turned out to be pretty decent. I think maybe I was wrong on that one. I suspect that's the way this thing would go. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe not. Only one way to find out, and that's through a little tolerance, right? So anyway, so I bring Shapiro on stage. The crowd goes completely bananas, right? They're like, holy cow, these two are up there together. The cake was funny, the whole thing. He did a really funny impression of Jordan talking fast, doing the hand thing, the whole thing. And I thought, here we are in a room. Here are two people with a fundamental different view on life that really have deeply different views in a certain way, right? But here we are, sort of breaking bread together, breaking cake together, so to speak. And thousands of people are applauding it. And then, some of the video got posted on Twitter. And then I see all these progressives, hundreds of the tolerant progressives who love diversity and all that stuff. Ben's a homophobe and Rubin's a self-hating gay. And it's like, you guys are the tolerant ones. I think you're doing this thing wrong. So I just think what's happening right now is the narrative is being flipped in real time. And, you could even look at somebody like Candace Owens. Now, Candace is my friend. We had her and her fiance over for dinner a couple of weeks ago. I did Candace's show on PragerU not too long ago. And Candace and I absolutely have different tactics when it comes to things. I said to Candace, it's like I swallowed the red pill and she snorted it, right? Like, she's definitely more aggressive than I am. She's a sort of more direct puncher, where I would go maybe for a little more nuance or conversation or something. But it's like everyone's different. We all act differently, and people are like, Rubin, you better get her in line, as if I own her or something. And it's like, this always comes from the tolerant lefties. It's really bizarre. But I think what's happening is we're seeing the narrative shift. So the reason I mentioned Candace, it's like Candace, for the last year, she really broke through at another level. And then there was this the Kanye West thing and all that. And then it's like, what's happening to the Democrats now? Now they're all about reparations. because her whole message of black people don't have to be Democrats, which anyone in their right mind would think about. The color of your skin should not dictate what political position you have, right? Unless there was a party that was voted that was trying to take away your rights, which there is not. I hate to tell you that, people, there isn't. But it's like now they're all about reparations. She said black people don't have to be Democrats, and now they literally want to give reparations. Well, no one in my family ever owned slaves. Why would I, even if someone in my family did own slaves, like, am I guilty of the sins of not even my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, et cetera, et cetera? Like, my great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents came from Eastern Europe with nothing. Like this whole idea. So now if they want to do that, then you saw this Elizabeth Warren now wants to give gay reparations. Yes, I am not making this up. She literally, she's tweeted out this thing that gay people, because they couldn't get married, lost $50 million and blah, blah, blah. I have never heard gay people say they want gay reparations. I have never heard it. I showed it to David the other day and he was like, what? Like, what? Like, this is just bananas, but they're being reduced to, and now free college for everybody, or no. Well, free college. Yeah. Bernie wants free college. But then the other one is now debt forgiveness, right? They're going to cancel all debt, cancel all college debt. Well, that's something, we just paid off David's remaining college loans. Why did we do that? Are we going to get that money back? I'd like that money back. Or should we go back 20 years and people should be rewarded for things that they did or did not do? So for example, when I was in high school, my dad sat me down. He made it very clear. We lived in New York. New York has a pretty robust state college, so SUNY, State University of New York, and they have Buffalo and Albany and Oneonta and Stony Brook, Binghamton, Geneseo, a whole bunch of schools. My dad said to me, if you go to a state school, they're significantly cheaper, so I'm more than happy to pay for it. And if you want to go out of state, you have to pay for it. So I looked at my options and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to SUNY Binghamton. SUNY Binghamton's a spectacular school, by the way. It's very close to Cornell, and it's sort of similar in a academic sense as Cornell. So what you would get at Binghamton often were the Cornell level students who just didn't have the money to get into Cornell. And this is, by the way, one of the reasons that I believe in public education. And I do believe that there is reason for schools to be funded by public. That is a use of government to me, state government for the most part. But since I made that choice, well, I guess if we're giving money out to people, I want some of that. I would have made a different choice. Maybe I would have gone to I wanted to go to Indiana just really to watch basketball, or some other school. Like should I get some of that money back? Or it's just this system of like pressuring and punishing people for all the wrong reasons. And then so you're going to tell me that everyone's going to have to pay to forgive this student's loan. All these middle class and upper middle class students who went to schools that they couldn't really get to, but because they had tons of money, they could go. Now you're going to take money from people who didn't go to college, let's say, or who paid off their loans to pay off other people's loans. The whole thing is bananas. But all of this, I bring this up because the whole freaking thing is in flux right now. Everything is being debated and argued about. And it's like every time I hear another politician say, we want to give you this, black people, you're going to get reparations, gay people, you're going to get reparations, you're going to get free college, where we're just going to brainwash you into thinking that you need free college, et cetera, et cetera. All of these things, I'm just like, is there any politician who could just be like, I don't want anything to do with you people? That would be my kind of politician. If there was a politician who was like, I really don't want to bother you. I'm going to, make sure that the borders are safe and, some minimal stuff, make sure the states aren't warring and a couple other things. But beyond that, live your life. We'll make sure the roads are okay. We'll make sure we've got some hospitals. We can talk about, if states want to do healthcare and a bunch of other stuff. That would be I would vote for that guy. You know what I keep thinking? Did you guys see the movie Brewster's Millions with Richard Pryor? It's a spectacular movie. Brewster gets, he's a struggling baseball player for like a AAA team or AA team called the Hackensack Bulls. He's a pitcher. John Candy is the catcher. And in it, he finds out that he has a dead relative who is worth a ton of money. And the guy says to him it's played by Hume Cronin, great actor. That's a good reference. I just got that. And in his will, living will. So he does a video. He says, I'm going to give you $30 million, but money ruined my life. So you have to spend that $30 million in 1 month. And if you do, you get $300 million. And that's what the movie's about. It's a really hilarious movie. And Pryor is the best of the best. And I love John Candy. Why the hell am I telling you about this? Oh, because one of the ways he decides, not just to talk about Richard Pryor and John Candy, although I'd rather do that probably. One of the things that he decides is that he's going to run for mayor because he's in New York City and he sees that the Democrat is awful and the Republican's awful and they're corrupt and they're almost in on it together. And he runs a campaign. I can't remember what the exact slogan is. Is it "Don't vote for me" or "Don't vote for any of these guys" or "Don't" something like that? Somebody will remember it in the comment section, I'm sure. And he pours a ton of money into just saying, "Don't vote for any of us. We're all freaking awful." That's the guy I would like to vote for. So I don't know where that guy is, but anyway, what else am I telling you? So I will be. So it's 3:30 right now. I'm getting picked up in about a half hour. I got to jump on Tucker, where I'm sure we will. Well, I know for a fact we're going to talk about all of these things. Oh, and I should note, this is another one of those cases where every time I do Fox News, people say, "Why don't you go on CNN? Why don't you go on MSNBC?" They've never asked. By the way, when I go on Tucker, it's live. They never tell me what to say. I don't tell them what I'm going to say or anything like that. Doesn't mean I agree with everything Tucker says or what the previous guest said or any of that stuff. But there is this odd thing that if you go on there, you're a bad guy or something like that. And it's like, come on, guys. Like, there's such a realignment happening, and let's none of the above. Thank you. Who did that? Jackson Thomas. Thank you, sir. The campaign slogan for Richard Pryor in Brewster's Millions is none of the above. Just don't vote for any of us. It's a great, great movie. I've been thinking about maybe doing like a movie night and trying to incorporate that into doing a video somehow, something like that. I got to think that through a little bit more. But anyway, I think you guys understand. My preference would be that Susan Wojcicki, Sam Witwicky, whoever, come on the show. Let's just talk about this freaking thing. Jack from Twitter for years, every few months would message me and say he'd be happy to do the show. He won't respond to me anymore. It's I don't even mean to make it about this like inside baseball drivel. But they're putting us in these weird positions where it's like, you're making us seem like bad guys, and we're not bad guys, and it's like you actually might be the bad guy. So that's I think that's about it for now. So what I will tell you just one more time, as all of these things are getting nutty, the way to support the people that you like really is by subscribing to them. And if you give a couple bucks a month or whatever you can do, that is the way to directly subscribe to people. I've thought many times in the last couple of months, I've even said it to my guys and they're like, "You're an idiot." I've said, like, out of protest, maybe we would just shut YouTube ads off altogether. And it's just too much. Even when it's down, it's still too much of what our monthly income is. But I've thought about doing it out of principle. But I don't know, maybe if we got to some level of subscription, I would do it. The counter to that is that I do like that the more success you have, the more you make. Like, I like that incentive structure. So the more views we get, that means I'm doing something relevant so that we make more money on it. There's a sort of whacked out incentive structure there too, because then it's like I could just do stuff for clicks. But I think you guys know the way we treat the channel, as I've talked about many times, is not purely just for clicks, and we don't play that game. And by the way, we've hired a YouTube pro. I don't know if he wants me to say his name right now, so I won't, who's gone in and done a whole audit of our channel last month. And we are making little changes on the margins and figuring out some things on the back end to figure out how to just reach you guys. I mean, the whole point is we want to reach you guys again, because we now have over 1 million subscribers and they're making it harder and harder for us to reach you. Oh, and I should note that it wasn't just this one insider who said this thing about Rubin and Tim Pool and a couple others being tagged right wing, and that then is put in the algorithm to suppress our reach and shut us down in suggested videos. They also got this girl who since has deleted her Twitter account, so that might tell you something, who is a high-level, like, chief diversity officer type thing at Google. And they got her basically saying that Google wasn't going to let Trump win another election, in effect. I'm loosely quoting. "We're not going to let that happen again." Nobody was drawing the line in the sand, so we decided to. And it's like, when they talk about diversity, they're not talking about real diversity. Nobody cares. Nobody cares what color you are. Nobody cares what gender you are, what sexuality you are. We don't want the government coming in and saying what pronouns we can use. We don't want the government coming in and saying who we can and can't hire and all of these things. That's it. So I suspect that more and more leaks are coming, because once people see a little bit of it, then I think some of the employees there will get a little bit braver. But again, I just really want to be clear about this. Like, if you're watching and you're a big shot at Google, or you're on the board at Facebook, or you're a shareholder at one of these things or something, it's like, trust me, I am sitting here as a guy that does this, that would prefer tomorrow for it all to just kind of reset. And we're going to just put your videos up. They're going to go out to your people. We're not going to mess with things. We're going to do things a little more honestly. We're going to just like Google, like just have your mea culpa. Have your mea culpa, and like we'll let up. It's not, like it's fun in a way. This is the catch-22 of it. It's like I do feel a certain energy right now, and I think you guys feel it. And it's like it's cool in life to like have that like fight to go after and all of that kind of stuff. But everything being equal, like I'd love to talk about ideas the way that we do. I'd love to keep interviewing people to the best of my ability, and let the chips fall where they may. Okay. I have to go and get changed and get ready for Tucker. We'll say one more. You know what? I'll give you a quick little insider studio tour. So this is my garage. I've done this a couple times for you guys. First off, we'll say hi to Emma. I don't think she's moved. Emma, you want to check in with the good people? All right, we're chilling. We're relaxing right now. All right, it's all good. So this is the studio. So in there. Right there, so that's the control room. So we built this window into there, so my guys basically can yell at me when I screw up something, and that's where the TriCaster is and all the computer monitors and the server and all that kind of stuff. So my whole crew works in there when we're shooting the show. This is a monitor. We have to clean up those wires. Sorry about that. I know if I've learned anything about doing live things on YouTube, people are obsessed with if you have a wire out of place, why haven't you fixed that? We just put this up, so we have that there. We have a giant map. That is a giant map from IKEA. I don't want to brag, but yes, that's a map from IKEA. And then we have, our cameras and those great things. So those are sound panels, which we have tons of. I don't know if you can see all that. I think you should be able to, right? Sound panels, which were donated by a fan. If you're watching, Warren, thank you again, my friend. And this is our lighting grid. And if you guys are ever building a studio for yourself, you will learn very quickly that that lighting is by far the most expensive piece of it. So we have this huge giant grid up there and all sorts of lights which burn really hot. So we have to keep the AC on pretty intensely. A fan just sent us these. I wish I could remember his name off the top of my head, but sent us a bunch of these. It's really cool. This is made out of wood, really cool American flag. And as you may have seen in the control room, we have a giant flag, which is from like 1950. I think it's from Virginia or something. And also, if you can maybe see what else is going on there, we've got the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. Yeah, I am a real right-wing maniac, obsessed with freedom. I know. And I'll just give you a little close-up of some of the artwork. So this painting and most of the artwork in my house actually was done by Kaylin Rose Janet, Caylin Rose Janet. And you can go to her website. I think it's kaylinrosejanet.com. She's a fantastic artist. This is a piece we commissioned, and she knows that I love coffee. So there's actual coffee grinds in here, actually giving it some texture. So that's that one. And then she did the I guess you'd call that the sister piece behind the guest over there. And is there anything else to show you in here? I think that's about it. Well, I'll give you, so these are like the mics, the microphones and that kind of stuff, and some more lighting stuff. And maybe next time I'll do a little tour of the control room. Maybe I'll show you guys into the green room and you can see all the video games that I let people play when they're here and the rest of it. Anyway, so that's it. Thank you guys. And yeah, we'll just keep going and see what happens. But again, Susan from YouTube, I'd love to talk to you. I see that you respond to people on Twitter, by the way. You seem to respond to other creators and invite them out for coffee and tea and all of that. I do have 1 million subscribers, but if you don't want to talk to me, I saw that Ben Shapiro invited you on. So if you want to chat with Ben, that would be great too. I'm happy to talk to anyone at these companies. Is there a trust and safety person that wants to talk, a terms of service person that wants to talk? The guy who cleans the windows, that would be fine too. I'd be curious to know how your day's going. That would be all good. So, all right, people, I'll be on Tucker. I believe it is at 8:10 p.m. this evening. Oh, and tomorrow's my birthday. So I have no idea. I know that there's something in store for me tomorrow. I don't know exactly what it's going to be. David surprised me last weekend, actually. We did something really cool. We drove up to Modesto, which is like a 5 or 6 hour drive up from LA. We drove to Modesto and we got to see Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons. He's 85 years old, and we got to see him do his thing and sing all the Four Seasons greatest hits and some of his solo stuff. He's 85, and there's definitely a little lip syncing involved, no doubt about it. But we had great seats, and I went right up to the stage. And I've always loved Frankie Valli. I just watched Jersey Boys, and thank you guys for all the birthday messages. I see that. But we just had a great time. It was so much fun, and it was in this great like outdoor. It was just really in a field in the middle of nowhere, and it was just totally fun and just singing along with the music. I'm old school like that. I love Frankie Valli. And then, and this is super cool. We were driving home, and I got a message from a fan who was able to get 2 extra tickets to Disney Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. So this is the new Star Wars theme park that opened up at Disney. It isn't even open for the public yet, but he got us 2 tickets, and we ended up driving. It ended up being like an 8-hour drive because we had to go. We went up to Modesto, then we had to pass LA on the way back down, go another like an hour and a half to where the hell is it? Anaheim. And we went to the Star Wars land, and then it was funny what happened. So we wait online and we get in, and it was just mobbed everywhere. And they're doing some really cool stuff there, because what they did was they created a whole new land. It's a whole new planet. So it's not like you're going to Hoth or Tatooine or Alderaan. Well, I guess you can't go to Alderaan. Apologies, condolences. But they created this whole new world, and there's no branding there. So if you buy a Coca-Cola, it's in like alien language, and the water bottles are in like another language. And all of the people there, all of the workers there, they're basically in character the whole time as if they're citizens of this village. So that was actually pretty cool. There's a First Order sort of landing area, and we saw Chewbacca and an X-Wing. Then you get to fly the Millennium Falcon. But I'll just tell you one more thing. So we go to the Millennium Falcon thing, and the way they do it, you go into, sorry to the people of Alderaan. I know that was offensive. So we go to the Millennium Falcon, and you're in a group of like 6 or 8 people. I was with 4 people total. So you're with some strangers. And this guy, I don't want to get the guy in trouble. This won't get him in trouble. But I'm standing in the front, and we're standing in the Millennium Falcon. It looks like the Millennium Falcon. It's so cool. We could play the game, like the monster chess game that they have. You can sit there at the board over there and whatever. The guy that's supposed to give us the speech, so he's telling us what our mission is, and it's very important. We're about to fly the Millennium Falcon, and we got to save the thing to do the thing and the whole thing. And the guy looks at me, and he completely blanks out. And he kind of walks away for a second. I was like, what happened? I thought he had like some kind of like medical emergency or something. And it turned out that the guy recognized me, and he was a huge fan, and he literally forgot the script that he was supposed to tell us. And he's like, he started profusely apologizing to everyone. He's like, I'm such a huge fan. I'm so sorry. I'm not supposed to do this. I don't want to get in trouble. Blah, blah. Anyway, he was a super nice guy, but it was pretty cool to be recognized on the Millennium Falcon. I was like, I've done something right in life. All right, guys, I got to go. I'll talk to you later. See you tonight at 10 after 8 Eastern on Tucker Carlson. And look, this story isn't going anywhere. And it seems like you guys are into these live streams. We should be doing more of these. We'll probably start doing them off the studio camera. And maybe I'll do some handheld stuff on the road or something. But anyway, all things considered, reminder, I'm not a Nazi. Ben Shapiro, let's just do the quick not a Nazi list. Dave Rubin, not a Nazi, does not like Nazis, actually grew up around Holocaust survivors on both sides of my family. And all joking aside, well, I'm writing about this in my book, but it's the worst sort of perversion of history that you could do to call someone like that. So Dave Rubin, not a Nazi. Ben Shapiro, Orthodox Jewish yarmulke wearing Ben Shapiro, not a Nazi. Dennis Prager, not a Nazi. Jordan Peterson, not a Nazi. Tim Pool, not a Nazi. Stephen Crowder, not a Nazi. These people have political differences that seem to be a little bit different than what YouTube wants them to have. That's all, people. So let's leave it at that. Anyway, have a great night, everybody, and thank you guys for I see a lot of good stuff happening in the chat. I think some good stuff. It's mostly people saying crazy things, but I think there's probably some decent people there. But I see a bunch of super chats jumped in. And again, if you want to subscribe, it's daverubin.com/donate. Thank you, Emma. Let's take a walk. All right. See you guys.